Well, joining me now is Brian Wood to talk about his sessions at the upcoming Illustrator Virtual Summit. Hey, Brian, thanks for taking a minute to chat.
Hey, Dave. Yeah, no problem. This is pretty exciting, actually.
Yeah, I'm very excited about Illustrator classes because honestly, I didn't see a lot out there, and I felt that this was something that people needed. And pulling from the knowledge of all these wonderful instructors, including yourself. And we were talking before we started recording about how long we've been working in Illustrator and how some things have stayed the same, but some things have changed. And one of your classes kind of addresses that because it's called Update Your Illustrator Workflow. So tell us about that a bit.
Yeah, it's, a lot of us have been using, or some of us been using Illustrator for a while, and it's tough to, you kind of get in your groove, you create your content, you use the same tools and techniques because you know them, because it's, easier to use and it's fast, right? So you get things done. But what I always try to do with myself is, I do a lot of video content, things like that. And so sometimes I actually get paid to learn, which is a nice thing. But I'm also doing, creative content. And what I wind up doing is I wind up taking one or two things every time and trying to implement them to an actual project I'm working on. And it's amazing how little tips, little tricks, little techniques from things that maybe already can update your workflow, can make it faster. So you can get to being creative faster without thinking as much about the tool, right? And that's what this session is all about. That's the whole
And I know that we always talk about the fact that for many of us in life in general, but also in software, we're kind of creatures of habit. So you tend to go down the same way of doing things because that's just sort of your muscle memory and your habits. And sometimes you have to kind of force the issue to say, oh, I'm going to try this just to see how it helps. And if it does, then you can start implementing it.
Yep. Well, I write a book and I do all the production on the book, and I've done it for years, and I've done things a certain way in that respect. And I learned a couple of techniques around working with artboards, with imagery, with links, with things like that, that have saved me so much time. And that's one of those things that if we look at some of the old school tools, we can look at them in a different way. That's the whole idea. And some new things, there are a lot of new things that have come into Illustrator that I think maybe some of us have heard about or don't even know about. I think one of my favorite things is to show somebody a tool that's been in there 10 years and they say, when did that come into Illustrator?
Is this new?
Yeah. Is that new?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that experience too, where you show something, and then you kind of feel reluctant to say, actually, it was
I know
for a while now.
Yeah.
That's great. Your other session is a little bit different because you're talking about going from static to stunning with motion graphics. So obviously incorporating other applications. So tell us about that one.
Yeah, a lot of creatives, I think, want to, they create these beautiful, stunning static images, these static things, this artwork, which is, in and of itself amazing. But when you start to see social media and all these different avenues or different ways to get your artwork and your content out there for brands and all this, you see a lot of motion, you see a lot of video. And I think a lot of us over the years have secretly wanted to dip our toes in that, and After Effects is one of those programs that I think a lot of us have maybe opened, looked at, and closed, right? But you have a lot of the knowledge to be able to take what you create in Illustrator, bring it in there, and we're not looking to go from 0 to 100. We're looking to go from static to some movement to give it that just a little, little zhuzh, a little much. So, and it only takes a little bit. It only takes a few things to learn. And once you get that baseline, you can just start running from there. So that's one of the whole ideas with this class.
Right. And I certainly can relate to that because I remember the very first time I opened After Effects and just kind of went, wow, there's a lot here. But then thankfully we had a similar experience of it, like the class you're doing, where someone showed me, well, here's you can ignore these for now. Here's the few things you need to know to at least get started.
Yep. That's the basis for this class. It's not to make you an expert, but it's to get you up and running and to show you that it is possible. You can add it to your toolkit. You can add it to your creative process at some point. So
perfect. Now we like to talk briefly about things that you might have in mind for our VIP members. So what do you have planned there?
So for the Illustrator workflow session, one of the things I was thinking about doing was a video. And in the class, we can only do so much, right? I'd love to pack in everything that I've ever learned in my entire life, like most of us would, but there are certain things we need to focus on. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to take my top 10 workflow tips, which is going to be the next 10, and make a video of that. So it'll just take things further, dive in further, even show different things, different techniques, different tools that, like I said, a second look at things or
Yep.
something new. So
Perfect. Awesome. Well, it's always nice to have extra material, and that's one of the benefits, of course, of the VIP pass. But I just want to thank you again for taking part in the summit and for doing this chat to talk about your classes.
oh, you're more than welcome, Dave. I love being able to speak at conferences, share knowledge, and this is fun. It really is.
Fantastic.